I'm not driving culture from the top. Culture does not matter. Culture is the why that allows us to make profit. If I don't know what somebody's goals and aspirations are, and as the leader of the team, I can't help them get there, what is the point? And I said, look, I am going to mess up. I will do something that will tick you off. And I promise every person here is going to do that as well. When somebody comes on day one and within the first hour, we're having a conversation like that, that sets the tone for what our culture is like. When somebody does something to us, we go against their character. However, when we do something against somebody else, it's because of our circumstances. Leaders are repeaters. As the leader or the leadership team, if we're not constantly bringing that language into the culture, into every conversation, it's going to evaporate.
Welcome to the Culture from the Heart podcast on the From the Heart Business Network. In a business world where employees and customers crave authenticity and trust, hosts Larry Levine and Darrell are on a mission to find and showcase heart-centered executives and the companies they lead. You are about to hear an inspiring conversation with a visionary leader that's bringing heart into the workplace, empowering employees, serving their clients, and uplifting communities, all to create true success. This is Culture from the Heart. The movement starts here. Let's begin.
Welcome to Culture from the Heart. I'm your co-host, Darrell, here today with Larry Levine, and we're joined in the studio by Trace Blackmore. He is the president of Blackmore Enterprises, a premium provider of industrial water treatment solutions in Atlanta, Georgia. Trace, welcome to Culture from the Heart. It's great to have you here.
Yeah, Darrell, Larry, thank you for having me here. Super excited.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. Hey, Darrell, something tells me this is going to be a fantastic conversation.
I know it, because it's always inspiring to hang out with Trace. And as we get started, Trace, you know the question we ask every guest on the Culture from the Heart podcast, and that is, what does Culture from the Heart mean to you?
I think as the owner of the company, my job is the chief cultural officer. And if I'm not driving culture from the top, culture does not matter. Everything I do tries to drive culture. So I think I would answer that culture is everything.
Hey, this is so good, Trace. So when you start reflecting back on your career, where'd you learn, the ins and outs and the inspiration behind culture?
I would say that I work for some really good companies. I work for some really poor companies. And the difference was the culture. How did I feel? How was I motivated? How did other people interact with me? And how was I encouraged to treat other people? One of the worst jobs I think I had culture-wise was when I was in the insurance industry. And it was all about hitting your sales numbers. And if you could do something unscrupulous, but you got that sale, hey, we'll overlook that. And that was just not something that spoke well with me. And I couldn't really tell you anybody's names of anybody that I worked with there. And then I went and worked for another company that I just had the most tremendous time. We were not only working together, we were helping each other. We knew what our personal lives were like. We knew things that we were struggling with. And that was all based on culture. And that was because the top leadership said, this is what we want to be. Yes, we have to make a profit, but that's a byproduct. And I truly believe that if we have culture and it's driven properly and it's the right culture, that byproduct will come with profit. And probably in dividends in so many other ways as well, I might add.
Yeah, for sure. Well, what are some of those ways? Because I think, when you think about culture, sometimes there's a viewpoint on this that culture is necessary, but it's kind of a soft part of the organization. When you talk about profit as a dividend, where else do you see dividends?
Yeah, we don't have time for this soft, squishy stuff. Just
Right.
go make money. All right, if that's what we're doing, then what's the point of that? What's the why behind that? And that's what culture really is. Culture is the why that allows us to make profit. It's why I decided to start my own company. There's so many other water treatment companies out there. Why don't I work for one of those? Well, the culture in a water treatment company that I wanted to create, it didn't exist. It does now. And other people may not want to work for me. Oh, that sounds like a horrible culture. Well, that's fine. There's so many others out there that you can work for. But if you are somebody that enjoys what we have, you will thrive here because of culture. So I would say one of the other dividends is the people aspect. And a lot of times we will spend more time with our teammates than we will our families. And if that's not an enjoyable experience, what is the point? If I don't know what somebody's goals and aspirations are, and as the leader of the team, I can't help them get there, what is the point? So all the dividends, I think, are the point.
Well, this is good. And I'm so glad we're bringing up the people aspect of this. And I've always shared this, and Darrell and I have gotten into deep conversations about this, Trace, is the more you pour into your people, the more they will pour into you. The more you know about your people, the more you all grow together. And it sounds like you have this culture that just thrives around get to know each other and finding out what makes people tick. Because at the end, I think that's what's going to drive the profits and the revenue.
Well, sure. Otherwise, you're a traffic cop. You didn't do this. You did this well, but this is where you need to improve. And it's only me doing that. Where if we all know the why, we all agree to it, we all want to make it better. Now it's not just me helping people get better. Hey, I notice you're struggling there. I'm a team member. I'm going to help you with that. Hey, if you don't improve that, I want you to know what happens to the overall company, and that will affect our profit. But it's not just the guy in the top seat. It's everybody, because we're a team here. Why are we a team? Because we buy into the culture.
Yeah, I love this perspective of communicating across the team, not only the why behind the company, but the implications of culture and aligning with it or being out of alignment with it, that it is something that affects everybody in the organization. And I think that's a really, really powerful perspective. I'm curious, if as you think about how you communicate that to the team, how you communicate the importance of the way people show up and engage with the culture in terms of how it affects the company. What does that look like in some of the daily interactions that you have as a leader?
Well, to start, I would say that one of the first things they do when they apply here is we start learning about them. And we use a couple of assessment tools. We figure out what their temperament is. We try to figure out what their working genius is. I'm sure you've talked about that on the podcast before. We also use Culture Index, and we're within the EOS model. So right before they start working, we've got a pretty good idea of how they work, how they communicate, and how we can better communicate with them. And then right on day one, we teach them our why. We teach them our core values. We teach them how we work together as a team. And the first handshake deal that we ever make is during orientation. And I said, look, I am going to mess up. I will do something that will tick you off. I promise. I don't know what it is, but I promise I'm going to do it. And I promise every person here is going to do that as well. It's not on purpose, but it will happen. And here's the agreement that I need for you to make with me and carry it out through every day that you are here, is when that happens, you're not going to let it just go by, because another one will happen. You'll let that one go by and you're like, okay, I'm being the bigger man. I'm just going to deal with it. And eventually that straw is going to drop and you can't take it anymore. Let's not let it go that far. When I mess up, tell me. And my agreement to you and everybody in this place, they will give you the freedom to be able to tell whatever you need to say, and we will fix it right there. There's never going to be a straw that's going to get in the issue. And I think when somebody comes on day one and within the first hour, we're having a conversation like that, that sets the tone for what our culture is like.
Oh, that's so good.
I love that. I love that. Well, we're going to take a brief break to hear from our sponsors. And when we come back, we're going to dive deeper in the story of culture at Blackmore Enterprises. See you in a moment. At Culture from the Heart, we believe that great leaders put their people first, leading with empathy and purpose. That's why we're thrilled to partner with Learn It, a global leader in learning for over 30 years, to bring you an exclusive offer: 45 days of free, unlimited training for your team with a minimum of 5 participants.
This isn't just about skills. It's about creating a culture where your people feel valued, supported, and empowered to grow. Did you know that 94% of employees are more likely to stay at companies that invest in their development? Culture from the Heart means giving your team the tools they need to thrive, not just for today, but for the future.
Learn It's courses help your team master essential skills like communication, collaboration, and emotional intelligence, all foundations of a people-first workplace. It's about fostering resilience, connection, and growth.
Don't wait. Visit learnit.com/culture to claim your 45 days of free training and start building a workplace where your people and your business can thrive.
That's learnit.com/culture. Start enhancing your learning culture today. You're listening to Culture from the Heart, and we're jumping back in with Trace Blackmore, CEO of Blackmore Enterprises. Trace, before the break, you'd mentioned some of the different assessments that you use when you're bringing people on board into your company. And one of those that's near and dear to my heart is the Working Genius. In fact, it was about a year or two ago over breakfast that you said, Darrell, you've got to go deeper with Working Genius. And so I'll really appreciate that insight, guidance, and encouragement, because it's been a real game changer. But Working Genius, for our friends, obviously Working Genius as a model put together by Patrick Lencioni and his team. For our friends who may not be familiar with Working Genius, can you give us a 60-second flyover? And then I want to talk about how this is impacting your culture.
Sure. I want everybody to think about how work is done. And think about a project that was executed perfectly. And then think about a project that maybe didn't go so well. And now we're going to talk about Working Genius, because what I'm going to talk about are all the 6 different levels that every single project needs to go through in order to be successful. And if we skip one or totally miss one, we're not going to have a successful project. And as you're thinking about those 2 projects that are in your mind's eye, you're going to say, that's what we forgot. So there are 6 letters, and they spell out the word genius. And the very first one is W for wonder. Now, this is not one of my geniuses, but somebody with wonder can just wonder why. For somebody like me, it might be, why are we in the industrial water space? Why don't we have a podcast? Whatever that is, it's a little flag, and sometimes it's the best flag in the world. Somebody's waving it, and we need to do something. A lot of times, maybe it's just a bunch of flags, and it's not any color at all, but that's how the idea starts. So from wonder, we then transition, all right, what do we do about that? So that's where invention comes in. Invention is, how do I take that idea that somebody said maybe we should do, and what do we do with it? What are all the things that we can put together and possibly do with this? Well, now we're going to move that a little further down the line, and that's D for discernment. Discernment is this a good idea? You know, guys, we did this before, and it failed miserably, and these are the reasons that we need to think about it. And maybe that discernment sends it back up to the inventor, and they're thinking, okay, well, I can retool that. And they go back and forth a little bit. Well, now we get it to where we need it, and that discernment now takes it to the rest of the team for galvanizing. Hey, everybody, let me tell you about this thing that we're working on. Let me tell you why you need to know what we're doing, and this is how it's going to impact you. And let me tell you, when this is done, oh my gosh, it's going to be fantastic, because it's going to create all of these great outcomes. If you can't tell, I'm a galvanizer. That's my highest. Everything would be galvanizing if it was up to me. After it's now galvanized and the team is rallied and they want to do it, they're going to move to enablement. Now, that's a bad word in a lot of areas, but it's a good word here. Do we have all the tools? Do people have the knowledge? Do they have all of the widgets that they need in order to do the work to get this thing done? And then the last one is tenacity. We finally have to land this plane. We really need to get the project done. And each one of those 6 areas is really a complete and successful project.
Oh, this is so good. And what I really like about this, and in a moment, Trace, is just to speak to the leaders and the executives on this is, here at Selling from the Heart, and obviously inside a Culture from the Heart, we know our working geniuses. And we stay in that zone of genius so we can row in the right direction. And I think if executives knew the working genius of their people, they could help their people row the corporate ship in the right direction. You get what I'm saying when it comes to that?
Absolutely, 100%. And let me start, because I know Darrell started by, okay, we're going to talk about some of the touchy-feely stuff. I'm sure there are people out here that are saying, okay, I don't have time to make sure you're doing the thing that you just feel so good about in your job. Suck it up. It's a job. You've got to get stuff done. So I will go on record by saying every single job out there is a 6-letter job. Wonder and tenacity, they are my least favorite things to do. But guess what? I got to do them. Now, knowing working genius, I know that if I'm doing a lot of W&T, I'm going to feel it. I'm going to know I'm working there and I'm not going to be having fun. It's not going to be energizing me. If I'm in galvanizing and discernment, which are my working geniuses, I could do that all day long, look at the clock and say, oh my gosh, I've been here all day. I had no idea. I skipped lunch. And then the other two are our competencies. And these are things that we're good at. People see that we're good at them. They don't necessarily bring us the energy and joy, but we don't mind doing them. But if we keep doing them, we're going to get burned out. So for all the executives out there, for all the owners out there that are thinking, how do I use this to make my team better? It is great to know everybody's working genius. It's great to know what their frustrations are, but it's really good to know what their competencies are, because a lot of times in meetings, those competencies will be delegated out to people that it's not their working genius. They can get it done and they'll do a great job, but they're going to feel it. And eventually the energy is going to run out and they're going to say, I can't do this job anymore. I'm not getting any joy out of it. I am burned out. So now that you all know that discernment and galvanizing are mine, if there's anything that needs to be delegated around that, give it to me. I would love it. Every person on my team hates to galvanize. It is all in their frustrations, and I never knew that. So I was thinking, I'm going to give you a gift, and I'm going to let you galvanize. And they all hated it. And I was like, what's your problem? So I didn't know that. I didn't have the language. And then they would tell me how they galvanized. I'm like, are you kidding? That's what you said? You had so many other opportunities. Now that we know that, when we're discussing what and who's going to do what, we're now able to get the right people. It doesn't feel so much like work anymore.
So powerful, especially in a world where we know employee engagement, every time they send those numbers, it's just awful. But to understand that there are certain types of work that actually bring me energy and certain types of work that just drain my energy. I'm curious, obviously everyone on your team knows their working geniuses, also their areas of frustration. How is that affecting the culture inside your company? And what does that look like?
I will say we now recognize when people are doing things that are not giving them energy. And just because we're asking about that, and an example of that might be, hey, at the last level 10 meeting, if I can use EOS language, I noticed that you said you would do 5 things and 4 of them are in your competency. The last one was in your frustration. I'm concerned about that. Just having that conversation, that's going to elevate how we feel about culture in the company, how we feel about each other. They say, yes, I realize that. However, this is why I'm the one that has to put my pants up and it's a 6-letter job and I just have to get this done. Or maybe the conversation is, I didn't realize that the work needed to be done. I didn't really think about it. Thank you for coaching me through that. Who do you think I should give that to? So it allows so many conversations instead of just saying, how come you didn't get that done last week? You said you were going to get it done. You didn't get it done. And I love EOS, but EOS doesn't have a lot of things that prescribe how to fix things. And I think this is one of the add-on tools that now allows us, why aren't we having successful level 10s? Why is this person showing up and they're not getting all the to-dos that are supposed to be done in the next week? They're not working in their geniuses a whole lot of the time. Maybe I can have a conversation about that.
Oh, and speaking of conversation, what I think this allows for deeper communication so we can all collaborate better.
100%. And when you know that somebody's looking out at the type of work that
Yep.
you're taking on, you're going to want to open up.
Yep.
The other thing, and this, I love this about Working Genius. Darrell, I think we had spoken about this. When we're in a meeting, I will write on the whiteboard where we are in that meeting. And so maybe we're going to brainstorm today. So I write a big W / a big I up there. And I'm going to invite everybody on the team. And this should never be a weapon. So if I can caution everybody, hey, I'm a discerner. I shouldn't go to that meeting. I'm not going to waste my time. No, we need you in there. You're part of the team. Or, hey, you're a discerner. We're not discerning now. You're not inviting to the meeting. Ouch. Now I have FOMO. I want to go. So with all of that, I think it's important to say what type of meeting we're going to have. It's been a while since we've come out with a new product. Let's all get together. Let's do a brainstorm. No idea is a bad idea. But all the people that are in the room that are not W and I's, we need to stay in W and I. And as a facilitator of that meeting, if we now get into discernment, because normally that will happen. Hey, we did that before and that didn't work. You know what? That's great information. Thank you so much for remembering that. Make a note. We're not there yet. We're just trying to get every idea out. And now that person's going to relax because we're doing Working Genius. They know they're going to get the opportunity to weigh in. And when people think, if I don't get the idea out right now, I'm not going to get the opportunity, they're not going to participate where we are now. If we set the ground rules, this is where we are now, we're then going to go to discernment. We're going to get to every single letter. So whatever you're wanting to say, we're going to say it. It might not be in this meeting, but it will be through the process.
Beautiful. Beautiful. We're going to take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. And when we come back, we're going to continue this discussion with Trace Blackmore. At Culture from the Heart, we know that hiring the right salespeople and leaders for your company is about more than just resumes. It's about finding individuals who have what it takes to succeed. That's why we're excited to offer candidate assessments from Selling from the Heart to help ensure you make great hiring decisions for your sales team.
Based on data from surveys of over 2.2 million sales professionals and sales leaders, these assessments benchmark your candidates against the core skills of top-performing salespeople and leaders. You'll gain unparalleled insight into their potential, uncovering whether they have the mindset, abilities, and behaviors needed to thrive in your organization.
It's not just about filling a role. It's about ensuring that every sales hire aligns with your culture and contributes to your success. Don't leave your next hire to chance.
Visit sellingfromtheheart.net/hiring and discover how candidate assessments can help you build a winning team. Make your next hire with confidence because your business deserves the best.
We hope you enjoyed that message. This is why we have editors. All right. We hope you enjoyed that message. Now back to our conversation with Trace Blackmore. Trace, this overview of the Working Genius and how it's playing out inside your culture is really, really incredible. I can see the profound effect this is having on your organization. I'm curious, for our friends listening in who are leaders who maybe haven't thought about Working Genius as a tool for their culture, what advice would you give to other leaders around this topic?
There is a podcast that the Table Group does. I'm trying to remember what it's called. I think it's called the Working Genius Podcast.
Mm-hmm. It is
very easy to find. They do high level talks. They do very deep dive talks. I've learned as a facilitator of Working Genius so much from listening to that podcast. That will give you some things that you want to know. A lot of people have done podcasts like this one to become aware of it. I would start there. And then there's so many people that are in the area that can probably come by and talk to you about why this might be a good idea for your company. And then you can evaluate it from there.
I want to key on the word why. So for the leaders out there that are looking at this, Trace, why the Working Genius in helping them develop their culture?
I would say two reasons. One, for yourself, you can give yourself some self-grace. I see Darrell doing this stuff and he's so good at it and I struggle with it. What the heck is wrong with me? And now we learn some Working Genius and we realize, oh, that's my frustration. No wonder I am not good at that. And now I know that Darrell is, and now we can collaborate better together.
Hmm.
The other thing is, and it's called the fundamental attribution error. And it was one of the last things I learned in my psychology classes, so I hardly remember, but I'll try to do it justice here on the podcast. I live in Atlanta, and if we're famous for one thing, it is traffic. And we have a lot of traffic here in Atlanta. And whenever somebody cuts me off, well, they're just a moron. However, if I cut somebody off, hey, so sorry, I've got an emergency. I'm sure you understand. So the fundamental attribution error states that when somebody does something to us, we go against their character. However, when we do something against somebody else, it's because of our circumstances. So it allows us to take the same grace that we might give for ourselves in that situation and now use it with every relationship that we have.
I love it. And I see something really beautiful emerging here around culture. And that's a culture where people on the team understand that everybody has areas of genius and areas of frustration. And it seems like that brings up a level of understanding and dialogue that can help overcome some of that fundamental attribution error inside the company, where we can actually at least have language to talk about those differences. And I'm curious how that's playing out inside your company and what advice you'd give to other people around that.
I would definitely say 100% it has helped our culture because, as you said, it's given us a language that how we can speak into it. I mean, how do you really talk about how work is done without the right definition? Because I could be saying something, you can be agreeing with everything that I'm saying, but we are so disconnected. So it gives us a little bit more language that we've already agreed on what the definitions are. So now we're going to be a little bit more precise about language. And when there's now an issue, it takes the personalness out of it. Okay, Darrell messed up. He did that to me. Well, wait a second. There was probably a disconnect there. Maybe we moved from discernment straight to enablement. We skipped the whole galvanizing process. That was the issue. It was a process issue, not a Darrell issue. So it allows me a little bit more substance to think about what the real problem is. And the fact that we're all in knowledge of what those definitions are, we're all speaking with each other about it, we're more apt to call each other out when things aren't going the way that they're supposed to. Hence, the very first handshake that I've had with everybody that's come into this company, we're not going to let things fester. We're not going to let things go. And now you've got some language to put along with that conversation.
You know what I like about this is I keyed in on the word fester. And the reason why I keyed into that word is how many times do we pay attention to the things that people are saying or not saying and go, I wonder why this is happening. I wonder why this has been festering. I wonder why there's a lack of communication or they're not getting something done. Maybe they're not operating in their zone of genius, but they just haven't said anything because they don't know how to voice it.
Exactly. Exactly. So by having this language and you asked earlier, what advice would I give to somebody? I heard this somewhere. I can't remember who said it, but leaders are repeaters. So, hey, let's talk about this working genius. Okay, so now it's the latest flavor of the month. We've brought it out. But as the leader or the leadership team, if we're not constantly bringing that language into the culture, into every conversation, it's going to evaporate and go away. So don't just read the book. Don't just listen to the podcast. Don't just have somebody come in and work with your team. This now has to be threaded through your culture. And I read somewhere that Truett Cathy, founder of Chick-fil-A, it took him 7 years to get people to say my pleasure. Now, you can't go into Chick-fil-A now without hearing my pleasure. That was 7 years of him reminding people. So hopefully working genius doesn't take you that long, but it goes to show how persistence is really needed. Leaders are repeaters.
I love it. Well, Trace, I want to say thank you. You're truly a fantastic leader. I've observed your culture in motion, and it's been an honor and an inspiration sharing time with you today. Thank you.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me on the show.
Awesome. Thanks, Trace.
Awesome. Amazing conversation. And I really like this concept about bringing language into the different types of work so we can communicate. And I think Working Genius, I can see now how that is really improving the culture inside Trace's organization. I've seen it improve the culture inside our organization. Just to have that language about, okay, what are we doing here? And how does that line up with a genius or a frustration of people on the team?
Absolutely. And I would just ask everyone who's listening or watching to just think of the word alignment.
Mm-hmm.
Align this within the culture of your company. Align this so people can come together to become more effective communicators.
Absolutely. Incredibly powerful and a game changer when it comes to culture. Well, thank you for everybody. Thank you to everybody who is out there sharing this podcast. We're on a mission to find and feature the heart-centered leaders and companies of the world. So if you know a heart-centered leader that'd be a great fit for this show, just go to culturefromtheheart.com. We'd love for you to nominate your CEO. We believe that the heartbeat of every organization is culture. And as Trace has reminded us today, it's all about understanding everyone's working genius and aligning around that. So thank you for joining us on Culture from the Heart. Until next time, lead with your heart and watch your culture thrive.
Thank you for joining us on this journey to discover heart-centered leaders shaping extraordinary company cultures. To access a leader guide with notes from this week's episode, simply click the link in the show notes or visit us at www.culturefromtheheart.com. Do you know a CEO who's built a culture from the heart? We'd love to hear their story. Head over to www.culturefromtheheart.com and click the Nominate Your CEO button. Until next time, remember, great cultures start with the heart.